Hi, welcome to Lesson 2 of Chef's Apprentice, learning how to cook like a pro one small plate at a time. Lesson 2 is called Crab Stuffed Lime. This quick small plate showcases the great combination of crab meat, avocado, which I call avo, and lime. The techniques you'll learn today are chopping with a chef's knife, making a sauce, seasoning, folding, plating, and garnishing. So let's start cooking. Okay, so first we're going to start with our mise en place, M-I-S-E-N-P-L-A-C-E, which, as I explained in the first lesson, means to have the things you need where you need them. Normally it only applies to ingredients, but in this course we're going to be using it to apply to the equipment as well. So, starting with ingredients, the description that comes with this video is for 6 small plates, and it comes with measurements. I'm going to use about 1/6 of what's in that description for this video for one small plate. But the measurements are not really, it's not an exact science. You're learning how to cook here, so you may find that you like the dish with a little bit more or a little bit less of one of the ingredients. And in this course we're going to be doing mostly no measurement. You might have noticed in the first lesson that we didn't actually measure anything. And the idea here is that you're learning to cook like a pro. And cooking like a pro is mostly eyeballing the amount, the measurement, making a judgment, your experience on how much to use, and you're building that skill in this course. So we're not going to use any measuring spoons. We may use a tablespoon that you'd eat at the table with, or a teaspoon that you'd use to eat with, but we're not going to be using any measuring spoons, so you can learn the skill of how much to use. So for our mise, we will need some lump crab meat. I've put some in the bowl here. So how much? Well, there's an amount that's on the description, but again, as in the first course, look at what we're trying to do. We're going to stuff this lime with crab meat. So I figured we'd need about this much crab meat to stuff this lime. I've actually got a little bit more than I need here, but it's okay to have a little extra than not to have quite enough. Also, we're going to need some mayonnaise, and we're going to be using Kraft Light today. Later on in the course we will make mayonnaise from scratch. You could also use other types of mayonnaise. There's a Japanese mayonnaise called Kewpie, K-E-W-P-I-E, which people love, so that's an option as well. I'm using light mayonnaise. I don't shy away from using fat, but I happen to like the Kraft light mayonnaise. We'll be using that. Also, we need an avocado, and it should be ripe. And I often have a backup avocado around just in case the one that I bought in the store that day is not ripe. Also, we will need a lime, and this has already been washed. We'll need lime juice, which we're going to take out of the lime. We'll need a clove of garlic, and we'll need some wasabi powder. Now this is pure wasabi powder. Most of what you get in the United States in wasabi powder is actually horseradish that's been mixed with green food coloring and has been ground. This is actually pure wasabi powder. Wasabi is a root, it's a rhizome, grows best in Japan, and it has a different flavor from what you get in most sushi restaurants. It's a gentler flavor and a better flavor. This came from a company called SavorySpiceShop.com. It's in Santa Fe, New Mexico. They probably have others, but SavorySpiceShop.com is a place where you can get it. We'll also need to have some Dijon Mustard, and we will need kosher salt for seasoning. We're also going to need more kosher salt for plating, so I have a whole box of Morton kosher salt here. We're also going to need some pepper, so we always use pepper from a Peppermill, never from fresh pre-ground pepper. And we'll also need some paprika, and we will need chives for garnish. Now, in terms of equipment, let's take these ingredients off the board here. In terms of equipment, we will need a chef's knife, which we worked with in the first course. And after we're a few lessons into this, I'm not going to tell you need a chef's knife anymore. I'm just going to assume you have a chef's knife because you'll be using one in almost every one of the lessons. You also need a paring knife. Now today I have 2 paring knives. One is sharp and one is dull. and not, or at least it's not real sharp, and I'll explain why a little bit later on. We'll also need a juicer, and we will need a bowl to mix the preparation in. We will need a saucer for plating. Now, the reason I'm using a saucer is because it has this indentation where a coffee cup would go, and I'll explain why when we get to that part. We'll also need a tablespoon and probably a teaspoon, but as I said, I'm not going to use measuring spoons because we're learning how to figure out our own measurements. And then, of course, we will need our prep list, which I've already prepared. Now, if you don't see the value of this and you don't think you need one right now, wait till we get to later in the course. You'll really see the value of having a prep list when there's a lot of things you have to do and a lot of things going on at the same time. So, okay, to start, according to our prep list, we have to prep the crab. Now, I've already taken it out of the container that it came in, and I used a fork like this to very, very carefully get it out of the container into the bowl without breaking up any of these nice lumps. So the crab is prepped. Next step is to top the limes. Now, because of the shape of this lime, I'm going to make this the bottom, and I'm going to make this the top. The top seems a little smaller, narrower. So we're going to top the lime, and in this case, we're going to take off about, I'd say it's about a quarter of it, because we are going to hollow out this lime, okay? We also want to bottom the lime, and the reason we want to bottom it is so it can sit flat. So we only want to cut off just a little bit of the bottom so it will sit flat when we plate it up. Okay, it sits flat like that. All right, so it's the first few things on our list: prepping the crab, topping the lime, bottoming the lime. And as I mentioned in the first lesson, I've prioritized these with asterisks. The asterisks are the things that you do first. Things with dashes for me are the things that you do next. All right, so next step is to hollow out the lime. So for this, we're going to use a relatively sharp paring knife, and we're going to press it down along the side of the lime, down into the lime. We're going to try not to puncture through the outside of the lime. We'll go right around the edge here like this. Try not to lose too much juice on the board because we're going to need that juice later on. I'll go as far down into the lime as I can, hopefully without puncturing the bottom. But it's not crucial in this dish. If the bottom gets punctured, the preparation is going to be thick enough that it probably won't leak out. Now, I don't want to lose this juice, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hollow out this lime by using the spoon to take out that part that I have cut around the edge. Now, it's not disconnected at the bottom, so you're going to have to use a little bit of force to get it out. And now it's pretty well hollowed. It's not crucial that it be totally perfectly hollowed. So you can see it's pretty well hollowed inside, and most of the juice has come out in there with the crab. Now we also have this core that we took out. And the next step is to press the juice out of it. So we use this juicer, put the core into the juicer, and then press the juice down inside. Now, that's it. The lime goes into the little holes and blocks them. So if you lift it up and move the inside, you'll see the juice run out. And we'll discard. Well, I might keep that core, use it for something later on. Okay, and always working clean. I've got a little bit of juice on the board, which I can try to pick up and get into here, so we don't lose that juice. There we go, almost all the juice off the board. The next step on our prep list is to chop the garlic, actually to mince the garlic. Remember what we did in the first lesson? We pressed the side of the garlic and the peel comes right off. Cut off the tough little root end. Also, in this piece of garlic, we also have the germ, the green part sticking out the top. Want to get rid of that by cutting it down the center, opening it up, and pulling it out, discarding it. Might have a little bit in the other side. We can get that out with a paring knife just by pulling it out. Okay. Now, we want to chop, or as I said, mince this garlic, and remember, position for your fingers. Curled under, thumb behind. running the knife along your knuckles. Very difficult to cut yourself this way. Chopping the garlic. And we're going to chop it pretty finely, which is also called mincing. Got some on the side of the knife here, so we want to give it another chop. Okay, I think that's good. Again, looking at how much we might need, garlic's pretty powerful, right? So looking at how much we might need for this amount of crab meat, we don't want a lot. We use one small clove. Now I like to keep this knife clean and dry because it's made of carbon steel, which it's hard to buy in the United States. It stays much sharper than the knives that are mostly sold in the US, but if you get it wet, it will rust and it will be stained by certain things like lemon juice and especially by red onions. Next thing on the list is chopping chives. So we want to make sure our board is clean and dry for this, and we just want to cut these chives very, very finely, very small pieces. And again, how much do you need? We're going to be garnishing the dish at the end, which is decorating it basically. So we want enough that we'll be able to decorate this dish. And if you were scaling this up to make for more people, use more chopped chives. I figured 2 chives would probably be enough. And there we go. All right, so we have our chopped chives. You could take those off and put them into a prep bowl, keep them aside till you need them. Okay, so we've chopped our chives. Now we're going to mix some. We're going to put the garlic into the bowl. We've already done that, and we're going to put some mayonnaise into the bowl. Again, how much mayonnaise? Well, you can see how much crab meat we have, and we have that lime juice in there. So I'm going to take this common tablespoon and put about a tablespoon of mayonnaise in there. And I'm thinking maybe just a little bit more. We want to get it all mixed in and wet, but not too sloppy wet, okay? All right. We also want to add, we already have the lime juice in there, and we're going to need some wasabi powder. How much to use? Well, wasabi is also pretty powerful, so we're just going to use just about, it's a little bit more than a pinch really for this amount of crab. Let's take just a little bit more. Put that wasabi powder in there. Okay. Now, we have in there the mayo, the garlic, the lime juice, the wasabi powder. We're also going to need some Dijon mustard. So how much of that should we use? Let's, again, we're looking at how much we have here. Adding just, I'd say just about that much of the Dijon mustard so we can get kind of a, we don't want nearly as much Dijon as we have mayonnaise. We've got like maybe a fifth or a sixth of the amount of mayonnaise. Okay, now the next thing that needs to go in is the avocado. Now I starred that as something to do first, do early on, but I actually think it's better to wait as long as you can because avocado will start to brown fairly quickly. Now to cut an avocado, what you do is you take your chef's knife, run it all the way around the avo, separate it. Now to remove the pit, you just take your knife carefully and hit the center of the pit, twist it, comes right out, and you just pinch it off of the knife like that. Now we're only going to need part of this avocado, and I told you earlier that we had a duller paring knife, and this is the reason. You're going to slice through this avo like this, but you don't want it to be too sharp of a knife, otherwise it'll come through the bottom and could cut your hand. So I use a duller knife to do this. You could even just use a kitchen knife. We're going to slice it this way into narrow strips, and then we're going to slice it this way. Now, if I were making the this for 6, I'd be using probably this entire avo, but I'm only going to use part of it for this amount of preparation. For this amount, I figure we'll use about roughly about half of this avocado. Okay, now we have all of the ingredients in the bowl. Now we're going to season it. Well, just I think a pinch of salt. Again, you want it to be slightly salty, just so you can very slightly taste the salt. Then a grind or two of pepper, so you have a nice coverage there. And now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to fold this mixture. Folding means to treat it very gently and to bring it over onto itself. And the reason we're going to fold it is because we don't want to break up those lumps of crab meat if we can avoid it. So we're carefully going to use the wooden spoon to fold all of the ingredients together. And we have them mostly well mixed. Got to separate some of that avo there. Nice and mixed there, but the crab lumps are still together. All right, so we've gone through on our prep list. We've mixed the whole preparation. We've seasoned it. We've folded in the crab. Now we want to taste it. Take a little bit. Try to get a little bit of everything on your spoon. Good. It's a perfect amount of salt. Just very slightly salty, and you can barely just start to taste the wasabi powder. Good. Now we want to spoon this mixture into the lime. And again, we need to do this carefully because we don't want to break up the crab lumps. So we want to get a nice amount of both the crab and the avo there. You can see I've actually made enough here for about 2, maybe even 3 limes. But again, better to have too much than not enough. All right, so we now have our preparation inside the lime. You can make it as tall as you can. It makes it look good. All right, now that's ready. It's actually ready to eat, but we need to plate it up. So to plate it, what we're going to do is take our saucer and we're going to pour some kosher salt into that depression that's in the middle of the saucer. Helps to keep it contained. But you can actually do this on any plate. And then we're going to place the lime in the middle of that salt. And then we're going to give it a little bit of paprika. Now, most paprika containers have one of those little things on top that have little holes in it. I don't like those. I just like to take it out with a pinch and garnish it myself. It's nice to have a little bit on the plate too. Gives it a nice appearance. And then finally, we're going to garnish it with the chives. There we go. Now, just to check our prep list, we have poured the sauce in the saucer. We've plated the lime. We did the avo earlier. We sprinkled with paprika and we garnished with chives. So our dish is finished. Just to recap the techniques that we went through today, we used the chef's knife again. We made a sauce, which was the mayonnaise and lime sauce with the Dijon mustard and the wasabi powder. And we also seasoned the mixture. We folded the mixture together so we wouldn't break up those crab lumps. We plated the dish and we garnished it. So there we go, the conclusion of Lesson 2, Crab Stuffed Lime. Hope you enjoy it.